Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Budget Committee. Today we've got a busy agenda of items to go through. Before I go any further, I don't see any regrets. Do I have any declarations of pecuniary interest, members of the committee? See none. Very well. Any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2017 Budget Committee agenda for today may appear before Council at its meeting on December 12, 2016 at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations must also be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. Members of the committee, I do have a couple of delegations on my list today, and what I intend to do is go through the two discussion items, items 1 and 2, to allow for questions and answers with our staff. Then I'll go to our delegations, and then I'll go to the budget deliberations, item number 3. You should all have a handout a draft recommendation that I provided for your consideration to start us off. So going to item number 1, additional information requested by Budget Committee in relation to the 2017 budget, and item number 2, Wycroft Road Bridge project timing and funding options. There's in your package a set of appendices answering a variety of questions, and there was also a addendum provided dealing with item number 2. Staff, do you have any comments or questions, or answers to any questions that you want to provide verbally?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, the reports are there. If there are any questions, staff are available to answer them today.
Very good. Mayor Burton, did you have a question?
I have a question about, well, first off, so we're considering 1 and 2 jointly, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's my intent.
Okay. I have no questions about item 1. On item 2, I would like to ask the CAO to explain to the public and the councillors concerned what the status of this Wycroft Road Bridge is.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. And I'll start the matter, and then I will actually ask Dan Cozy to walk you through the current status of it. Every 5 years, the area municipalities, along with the region, conducts what we call a road rationalization review, where we look at changes to the road network system between the region and each of the area municipalities. And this activity has been ongoing on a 5-year basis since the late 90s. And usually coming out of that, there are roads which move up to the region because they have become more of a regional significance as opposed to a local arterial. And on the same token, as new roads are built and things change, what were previously regional roads come back to the area municipalities. And there is a very large process that is undertaken that was put in place many years ago that examined the characteristics. This last round of road rationalization, one of the areas that was looked at was the extension of Wycroft Road across the Bronte Creek so that there would be a full connection between Burloak and Bronte Road. That has been designated in terms of the existing road that goes from Burloak today to the end of the Riocan Plaza is a local road because at this point in time it does not go anywhere and it's serving a local area. But with the impending need of the extension of Wycroft Road, through that process, the roads rationalization, it has been agreed at the staff level, and this came back up through local council and regional council, and I'll ask Dan to speak to in a moment, that this in fact should be a regional link. And with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Cozy to speak to when was the road rationalization complete and what the status is through Oakville regional councils.
Just one thing, though. You I think, skipped over a little quickly that council made a decision about this earlier this year.
And that is what I'm going to have Mr. Cozy speak to specifically.
Great, as long as we get that clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so the roads rationalization process was ongoing throughout 2015, and we prepared a report to Community Services Committee and Council. I believe it was January or February of this year. Forgive me, I don't remember which month, but it was one of those two, where we outlined what the recommendations of the roads rationalization study was. As CAO Mr. Green indicated, Wycroft Road is designated as a future major arterial roadway, which means it's going to be, or it should be, a regional road because it hits all the characteristics of a regional road, and that is when it's fully connected. The problem being is that it's being ranked ahead of the time that it's actually been built. So as Mr. Green said, the existing section serves a local purpose. Today, it operates as what we would call a multi-purpose roadway, which is our responsibility. But when the bridge and the extension is built out to Bronte Road, it is recommended to be a major arterial roadway. As such, then the question is, so if it's a regional road, when's the region going to build it? And back at that same meeting, when we presented Roads Rationalization Council, well, not this council, but it was revealed that Halton Council directed regional staff to report back on an expedited work plan to examine the need and justification for the inclusion in the regional road network for the future crossing of Wycroft Road over Bronte Creek. And that's not a direct quote of the recommendation, that's a paraphrase. And so I can tell you that regional staff recently wrote a report back to its Planning and Public Works Committee, and I believe it was on November the 9th, where they outlined how they would address Wycroft Road. And the regional staff have indicated that this work is best addressed as part of Halton's next Transportation Master Plan update, which will not occur until Halton has updated their regional official plan. Halton staff, this report in November outlined sort of a timing schedule for this, which included the development of best planning estimates, which are currently not available, and the master plan. And I believe it's around 2020 that they would address the inclusion of Wycroft Road in their next master plan update. So at that point, it could become a regional item to be collected in their DC and then delivered as a regional roadway sometime after 2020.
Thank you very much for that very helpful information.
Any further questions, members of the committee? Any others? Councillor O'Meara?
Thank you very much. Pardon me. Sorry, I think I'm getting something or I'm getting over something, one or the other. I appreciate the information, Mr. Cozy. I'm wondering if you can speak to the reasons why the region needs to go through all of these steps and whether or not the town of Oakville has already gone through those steps.
Well, the town had undertaken an environmental assessment study to include the crossing of Bronte Creek along Wycroft Road back in the 90s, and it was updated in, I believe it was in 2006, and this included three overall improvements in the Bronte area, which was the Rebecca Street Bridge at 12 Mile Creek, which is already built, the Burloak grade separation, which is not currently built, but we're working on that one, and of course the Wycroft Bridge. The region, because it was never, at the time of the EA, it was never envisioned as part of the regional road network, they've simply advised us that they need to include this in their transportation master plan work to get the need and justification to put it into their DC. I think it's as simple as that, Councillor.
But I mean, so the town has already done its transportation master plan, its best planning estimates, its official plan, all of these elements that the region now has to go and duplicate, they've been done at a town level with regards to this project in mind, is that correct?
Yes, they have.
Would I also be accurate in my conversations with the CAO of the region and her conversations that this project may or may not even be included on a regional 10-year master plan until potentially 2024 or 2026? Were those the discussions that you've also had as well?
I'm not familiar with those dates. What I understand is that it would be eligible for inclusion within their capital forecast once they've completed their Transportation Master Plan in 2020 or 2021. So when it comes in after that, I can't say specifically. It could be a year, it could be a couple of years. It depends on the desire to get it in and how quickly.
And are there any outstanding projects outside of the town of Oakville's 10-year master plan that have been in genesis longer than this plan or pre-1994?
No, there's been some. I mean, the Kerr Street grade separation's been a project that's been in the master plan for quite some time. I can't speak specifically if it's longer than Wycroft, but I know that one has been a long time coming. Burloak as well has been in and out of the capital forecast over the last 10 or 15 years. So I can't say specifically that anyone else, any other project has been waiting longer. It is one of the ones that's been there for a while. I'll agree with saying that, but I don't know specifically if it's the only one that's been there for that long of a period of time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cozy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Would the Trafalgar QEW crossings and the Royal Windsor crossings, would those all be also way out there in terms of they've been talked about for decades? They fall into the same kind of category, don't they?
They do. The 403 crossing is one that was recommended as part of the last transportation master plan. So I believe it's not that old, but the crossing, the second crossing of the QEW along Trafalgar Road's been there for a while.
I have constituents in the Falgar Road area who have lived there their entire lives, and they seem to claim that it's been on the books as long as they've been there, kind of thing.
Well, there's always been discussion of that crossing, and initially it was thought to be at 8th Line, and then
It's
mid-block.
moved around,
and-
but there's
yeah,
been discussion of
you're
it
right.
going back decades. Councillor Dudek?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Could you remind me again of the cost of this? Is it 45 million in around that?
It's, well, I'm rounding, 49
We're
million
getting up to
dollars
about
in today's
50 million.
dollars.
Okay. And by including it in the regional DCs, basically that means that we'll have a considerable amount paid for through our development charges, i.e. developers versus the taxpayers, correct?
Correct. I mean, you're just dividing by a larger, you're
Okay.
collecting on a larger base.
And I guess the other factor that I think is important to remind ourselves is the fact being regional, which I think is the proper placement for the concern to be directed. Burlington will have a considerable benefit in this crossing as a result of, I know a lot of people use the Lakeshore and Rebecca Street to avoid having to do the QEW. So it will be a regional benefit as well as Oakville benefit, I believe.
Correct. It is certainly, I mean, I was heavily involved in the roads rationalization process, and I mean, this road hits every category. I mean, and sometimes you get a road that it's, it hits 80% of the characteristics, and it becomes recommended as a regional road. This one hit all of them. It's to put it frankly, it's a no-brainer. It should be a regional right-of-way.
Councillor Chisholm?
Mr. Cozy, has any traffic studies been done with respect to the Whitecroft Bridge recently in the last 3 or 4 years or 5 years at the max? I'm really having a difficulty understanding traffic flows and how this bridge is going to help or assist with the traffic congestion that has coming north and south on Brownie Road. I just, with that kind of investment, I'm not sure if we move forward on this, what the traffic patterns and flows and so forth. Have we done any studies on this?
Well, it was part of our transportation master plan, which is a traffic study. It's just done at a macro level. It would alleviate congestion in Brawny. There's no question about that. You have a 2-lane arterial roadway, north-south on Brawny Road, and currently you have a 4-lane roadway on Burloak. And you have 2 ways to get to the QEW, whether you're coming from the Lakeshore Woods subdivision, or you're in the old Bronte area, or you're coming from the Burlington side. Some people are taking Rebecca Street to Brawny Road because Burloak is busy, or because they know the tracks, the gates could be down. With the grade separation coming, hopefully soon, We'll have 4, if not 6 lanes on Burl Oak Drive, which will increase capacity on Burl Oak. That will hopefully take most of that traffic from Lakeshore Woods and the Burlington side up Burl Oak Drive to the QEW, instead of bypassing and trying to get through on the other side. Wycroft just provides another choice. It provides a connection to employment lands on our side of the creek, to employment lands on the Burlington side of the creek, and it will help move goods and people in a much better way than we can today.
Any other questions on any of these items? Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that information. Members of committee, you do have the information before you. Before we receive that information, I'm going to go to our delegations. I've got 2 listed here. Don Pangman, who I don't see in the audience today. Going once, going twice. Sold to, I'm missing Mr. Don Pangman. Number 2 is Mary Van Kesteren. Welcome, and please come forward, and we look forward to your information. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much for allowing me to, at this short notice, come and speak to you. My name is Mary Rose Van Kesteren, and I live at 2345 Devon Road. And I first of all would like to thank Council for not removing all of the bus service. It's been, I've lived with my husband and our daughter in that same house for 22 years. And certainly one of the main reasons we bought was because of the transit availability. That was really, for me, very critical. I don't drive, I never have. So I've lived my whole life mostly in Toronto, and getting around, and wherever I've traveled, everything is always via transit. And so I guess my perspective is probably different from that of most of you, if not all of you, because we live in a society where the car certainly has been not only the primary, but for a lot of people, the only mode of transportation, and kind of one of the markers of progress and kind of making it for people is having their own car. So we end up with a society which, is completely centered and completely, I think, invested in cars. So, when we look at what is being spent, first of all, I want you to know that I appreciate the challenges of such a body, because you guys have kind of the nitty-gritty to look after, the dollars and the cents. I'm an accountant, so I understand that. But you also have kind of the vision to ensure that you have a vision for Oakville, for Halton, and that vision is aligned with improving the lifestyle, improving life for all its members. We have a lot of challenges as a society, and I don't need to go through all that, but certainly kind of where that snowball lands and where it really has to be dealt with is at your level, at the town level. So I understand that. What I would also like you to see, though, is that first of all, there's a lot of people in Southeast Oakville that would use buses. And I can tell you that for a fact. I'm a very big believer in community and in neighborhoods, and I think that's kind of our salvation. That's something that each one of us needs to work on. And so I started having neighborhood potlucks for my neighbors. I'm having my second one this Friday. And I'm the only one of my neighbors that doesn't drive. But when I told them kind of about the whole issue of getting around Oakville and so on, every single one of them certainly supported. Now, I know that there's a lot of complaints about empty buses. And quite honestly, I don't like seeing empty buses either. I want the buses full of people. I want the buses so that, you know, the first thought you have isn't stepping out in your car. So that when you're getting around, you know, I've spent, I'm kind of going all over the place, but, you know, it's really, what somebody who doesn't who drives doesn't and has their own vehicle doesn't understand is the feeling and the actual reality of independence and freedom that having transit gives to you. You know, whenever I've traveled in Europe or even in other parts of the world except the United States, you know, it's how I've gotten around. I went to Brazil with my husband when he was there doing a project. And I did not speak Portuguese, still don't, but I got around and we stayed in Rio and I would go into town on bus. I mean, it was just, the perspective in Oakville is very different. And I recognize that, but I think that's kind of part of where we all need to work together to educate Oakville that, first of all, the world has changed. You know, while everybody was going ahead and, you know, getting a bigger car and doing all the very nice Oakville things that a lot of us do, the world has changed. And although we have not yet truly been impacted by that change, we will be. And so we need to plan and prepare for that change. And certainly, I think, you know, transit is a huge part of that. You know, the UN has this really excellent study that I've read about kind of how transportation should be looked at and the percentages that really should be allotted for cars and so on, and the percentage to pedestrians, to bicycles, and to transit. So kind of having that whole big picture plan is, I think, something that, and I'm not saying that Oakville hasn't done it. I haven't read my apologies, the consultant report as well. I do plan on doing that as soon as I get a couple of other personal things dealt with. But, you know, I guess I want you to know that, you know, we care about our transit. And even the people who aren't sending you emails care about their transit. When we first moved to our house, 2 doors down the road, there was a lady, Mrs. Watson. She was probably around 80. And she, you know, every time I turned around, she was on a bus going somewhere, doing something. All her activities were on the bus, you know, the same. And for myself, you know, downtown Oakville is a huge part of my life. It's, you know, it was, and the library and downtown Oakville, kind of for me, it's like one thing. And so, you know, my shopping is done there, a lot of my socializing, you know, when I'm in between I'm a contractor. So when I'm in between contracts, that's where I socialize, is in downtown Oakville. And so there's just a lot of things. So, you know, I want you to understand that, you know, the cost of not having a really good transit system And good is, obviously it's kind of a fuzzy word, but we could have that, a much longer conversation on that. I think far outweigh what the costs of the current cost, and I'm not here to ask you to spend more money because I'm not the expert in this. I have a lot of ideas on things that, I think should be considered. But, I'm not the decision maker and I'm not the expert. So I can't really, but all I would ask is that, you remember that although there's, probably most of the people that are sending you emails, I ride on the bus with their nannies. The nannies and I are very good friends. So, it's important to listen to your constituents, but I think it's also important and it's expected that, you guys are kind of driving the right thing. And you guys are the leaders, in ensuring that we really do have a livable community.
Mary Rose,
Sorry.
you've
Sorry.
run out of the 10 minutes. Is
Okay,
there any
sorry.
last comment, or I'll ask if there are any questions?
No, I think that's kind of what the message I wanted to give, and if anybody has questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Hutchins.
Yes, this is the number 2 bus you're talking about, which was cancelled?
Well, no, I'm just talking in general. I mean, the number 2 bus was canceled. Even when that bus was brought, it didn't go as far as Devon. So I had like a 15-minute walk, which is, in the scheme of things, that's fine. But also, I have the only way of getting to downtown Oakville is really to get to where the hospital is and then walk down now. There is no way of getting to downtown Oakville. My daughter is 18 and she works down there, her part-time job, and my husband has to drive her. If I want to go to the library, my husband drives me. Anything I want to do, I have to get a ride. And on the weekend, there is no transit at all for somebody in Southeast Oakville. And, like I said, I recognize and I understand the challenges, but I think, that we need to work on kind of equalizing and kind of understanding what are we investing in cars? What's really the cost that we're spending? I heard conversations about traffic flows, and Oakville has become quite challenging in getting around. There's so where does transit fit in there? So it's not just a matter. I want to make sure that you understand that it's not just kind of a part of it is a selfish one where I'm here. Because yes, I'd like the number 2, or I'd like to have the ability to get myself to downtown Oakville, and to get around Oakville without needing a drive. But
Are you aware that the number 2 bus was costing the taxpayers about $1.4 million a year, and we were only recovering $200,000 of that because of the lack of ridership?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read all the details as yet, and I don't want to kind of belabor the discussion with, and I'm not necessarily questioning your decision, but the issue is still that if you're spending X amount of dollars on transit, it's got to be either you're fully committed to having a really viable transit system. If it's going to be kind of a half-assed one, excuse my language, then we're all better off with nothing. Because if it's something that's just going to be running around and doing, very minimal really service, what's the point?
Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you very much for joining
Thank
us
you.
this morning.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask to make sure if there anybody else in the audience here today who wishes to provide any further information to the committee prior to us receiving the information and moving on. Going once, going twice, there are no further delegations. Thank you very much. Mayor Burton.
Councillor Adams, I'd be, Mr. Chair, happy to give you a motion that's presented for 1 and 2, but before I do, could I ask the Transit Director to take a few questions?
Yes, you certainly could, and he is there. Go ahead, Mayor Burton.
Mr. Cole, thank you for being available. Could you describe the basics of our transit system? How many buses, how many rides?
Through you, Mr. Chair, our peak service is 72 buses. That's at the PM peak, 71 buses in the AM peak. We operate now 21 routes. We operate more or less a family of services. So we have conventional fixed route service. We have senior specials, student specials, school specials, as well as on-demand service, which is specialized service and home to hub.
And how many riders a year would that serve?
A little over 2.8 million.
And can you describe what we had 10 years ago?
About 2.2 million.
And the rest of, I'd like
From
kind of
a-
an A and B.
From our routes.
Buses to buses, riders to riders, services to services, at a high level.
Yeah, at a high level, we would have put out, 10 years ago, we would have put out about 55 buses at peak. We operated community bus. We didn't have senior specials. We had half the school specials. Ridership was probably 25% less.
So is it accurate to conclude that the transit system has been increased by 50% roughly over the 10 years?
I would say, through Mr. Chair, I would say it's probably closer to about 40%, but yeah, significant increase, about 40%. Yeah.
So thank you very much for that information. Mr.
Any
Chair?
further questions? Mayor Burton?
I moved the 1 and 2.
Okay, items 1 and 2 have been moved for receipt. Any further questions? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Receiving number 2, what does that really tell us? What's that do for the people that want the bridge?
Mayor Burton?
Council has referred the bridge earlier this year to the region.
Yeah.
And there it sits. And receiving the information leaves it there. It would be kind of a peculiar move for council to, having referred the bridge to the region, to then proceed to build it itself.
Well, Your Worship, since you're helping me here, I'm going to throw this back to you, if you don't mind. We've done peculiar things before in our lives, and I presume we'll continue to do so, many of which are right, some are wrong. And I believe we should show the management initiative of the council that supports the people of Oakville and take it upon ourselves to put this into the 10-year capital forecast. I don't care what the region has done or hasn't done. Looks like they haven't done anything. So why don't we do something?
Councillor, you should vote against my motion. And
Well,
then,
and
if you defeat it, you should move a motion to move it into the 10-year capital forecast.
I'd like to see that happen. I think it would be a good, smart, wise move. Wise is the word.
Mr. Chair, would you call separate votes on the 2 items?
Of course. Any other questions or comments? Councillor O'Meara?
Sorry, just a procedural, so if we're calling separate votes, then can I speak to item number 2 after the, or would you like it right now, Chair, Mr. Chair?
You're welcome to speak to it right now if you'd like.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the committee members for allowing us to sit here and for me to speak to these issues. I make no bones with the fidelity of which I hold this issue in terms of item number 2 in the Wycroft Bridge. And at this time, if the committee would see fit, what my ask would be, would that the committee would refer this issue to council, as in other committee meetings, we often refer issues of such magnitude to council, so that each council member can have a say and a vote on the issue, especially an issue with such a major impact to all westerly moving traffic in Oakville. With regards to the Kerr and Burl Oak underpasses, those are on the books. There's an RFP and an RFQ going out in 2017, so congratulations to Councillor Duddick and Chisholm on their oldest, most outstanding infrastructure issue that will be undertaken next year. I would like to speak briefly just with regards to the rationalization of the region and the comments that are being made, and I have no doubt that there are regional implications to this, and they're very good ones. There may or may not have been regional implications in the early 90s, and again in 2006 when the issue was brought back again. I'm sure if we wait long enough, there will be other rationalizations for other levels of government to take them over and to do everything. I think at some point, plans change and rationalizations change, and in the meantime our residents sort of sit back and wait to see when we're going to start executing these plans. So I again would just echo my ask, and again I would like to thank Mr. Chair, your help for all the work on this, and Mr. Mayor and the committee members for putting up with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? And I'll just say a couple of words about this. There's no way I can support moving the Wycroft Road Bridge into this 10-year capital plan. Doing so would require moving us, dropping off $50 million in other projects for the rest of Oakville, for every other resident in Oakville. Pedestrian overpasses, Spears Road, Chartwell Road, North and South Service Road, a whole bunch of traffic intersections. Will the councillor also support $180 million in Midtown capital projects? Will he drop off all the projects in Bronte to allow that to happen? I don't think so. So we have engineering staff that have looked through and considered the prioritization of our projects, and they've done so on good engineering grounds, and this is the way it is. And if, I'm sorry you don't like it, I'm sorry you campaigned on it, but you know, here are the facts. Any others? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. No, that's items.
Actually, can I ask you to do that, separating the votes?
Very good. All those in favor of item 1? That's carried. All those in favor of item 2? All those opposed? That's carried. Very good. Thank you, Mayor Burton, for separating that. Members of committee, we're going to move to item number 3, which is the budget deliberations. I have provided a draft for your consideration to start us off. Could we put that on an overhead, please? It'll have to get zoomed in because that's not legible. Yeah, that's high tech. That's almost legible. Is there an electronic version on that can be used from the computer there? That might be better. We tried. Let's go really high tech now, shall we?
Can we just get the screen back?
We'll get the coffee stained table off the screen. Looks like people have been dropping water on that. Members of committee, I've drafted this with the help of our staff to try to respond to the various consultations we've had, the various discussions we've had, and I look forward to discussion on the items. It includes a number of the additional referrals to the committee. It includes the funding for the tourism. It includes $90,000 for the Heritage Grant Program. It includes the cultural strategy funding. It does move forward some of the funding for the road resurfacing program, and that's designed to put us in a better position for 2018, 2019. It also refers back the issue of the traffic calming, the flashing 40-kilometer zone signs until we've received a report on the use of photo radar. It provides for a new option for the use of funding for council members to communicate with the members of the public. And then going on to item number 4, provides direction to staff to undertake service delivery reviews, and that is intended to provide us with some additional options to offset costs in future years. On the capital project side, item number 5, it brings in the various stormwater projects that have been put forward under the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. It also restructures the road resurfacing preservation program as per the first item. So that's a consistency issue. And overall, it provides for a 3.21% increase of the town share and a 1.99% overall residential tax increase for the 2017 budget. It also, at the end, provides direction to staff to continue bringing budgets forward that are in line with inflation, consistent for 2018 and then 2019 and 2020. So we're working forward into the next 3 years and putting ourselves in a position that I think as a community we want to be. So could I have a member of committee who would move that? Councillor Elgar has moved it, so it's now on the floor. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Councillor Elgar?
The only discussion I'd like to say is I really like when I look at number 6 and number 7 on the report, where in fact overall the increase is 1.99%. I think that's a reasonable number, and I think you've done a very good job of whittling it down. And everybody wants everything, but nobody wants huge tax increases in Oakville that I'm aware of. So I think overall it's an excellent budget. I'm pleased to move it.
Any others? Councillor Dudek?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just to echo Councillor Elgar's comments, but I'd also like to applaud the committee for including the $90,000 for the Heritage Grant Program. I know that Councillor Hutchins has been a strong advocate for Heritage Oakville, and I'm glad to see this included. While I would have liked to have seen a bit more, I certainly understand, and I think it's very prudent given Councillor Elgar's comments. We can't do it all, so this is a good step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dudek. Any others? Okay, then seeing no others, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, members of committee. I really appreciate all the discussion that we've had over the last few weeks on this issue. I want to thank the other members of the council that are here. Every one of you have had their input. Every one of you have brought something to the table on this, so I really appreciate everyone joining us. And to the members of staff who, behind the scenes, have been diligently scampering around trying to answer all our crazy questions that we've had for you. Thank you very much. You put together a package of responses very quickly. I know how difficult it is sometimes to respond to questions, and I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate the way you've come back with follow-up questions for us to make sure you're getting it right, so to speak. I think that's a very helpful thing, and it's a very healthy thing for not only council but also our community overall. So thank you very much, everybody. We will be bringing this to council on December 12th, and I look forward to getting it through and passing it at council. Thank you very much, everybody. We are adjourned.